Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. On this episode, I want to go over the long-term 5-year review of the Hobie PA 14 and a couple of our last modifications from the last videos, the last two videos we have of this kayak. I want to go over the last few changes we made and our final setup right after this. I'm shooting this outside because I want a better lighting for you guys. It's a windy day. I just want to get this video done, so hopefully the mic eliminates most of it and it's not too bad for you guys, but if it is, I apologize. We've had the Hobie PA 14 now since 2017. This is our second one of it. We had a 2017 and then we got this one in 2021. And the only reason why I changed in 2021 is because I wanted the change they made. It was the recess reduced transducer mount. I wanted that because I have the side view on mine, so it's nice having that option pulling up. And the only other change they did is these tracks up front actually have gear, you know, like a T-slot in it. But you don't have to change your kayak if you have a previous gen, because you can just change just these tracks out in the front if you don't care about the the recess transducer mount. So that's the only reason why we changed in 2021 is because we wanted that feature. Now the previous one I had no problems with it whatsoever. I had that one for then, what, 17, that would be 4 years almost. So, you know, we're going on almost 5 full years of having a Hobie PA 14. And when I upgraded this one, I did not go to the 360 just for the simple fact that, you know, they were still having problems. I think they have it under control. But for the extra money, I'd rather put it towards something else for this. You know, be able to spin around for where I fish, what I do. Do you have an advantage with the 360? Yes, you do. But to me, it's not worth the upgrade, in my opinion, for what I do. So that's why we just went with another standard Hobie PA 14. But I kind of just wanted to just capture a few other options that we've changed since my 2 other videos, which I will link at the end of this. So if you haven't seen them, you can watch them. But we'll show you our motor setup on here, which we did, and you know, we got this little attachment here for our net. We had to change the net recently because we got tired of losing fish. It only happened a few times, but I lost a really big one. And what else did I add on here since the last video? Oh, our navigation light in the front, and then I'm gonna have a separate video on that. It's made by Guardian Angel Devices, and the reason why I took that route over actually hardwiring it. The last few modifications I made is adding a Yak Attack leverage landing net. I was actually looking at a couple different ones, but I ended up going with this still. And what I did is I took my old camera mount, which I had here in the front from Yak Attack, and I put their roto grip accessory on top of that camera mount, which elevates it above. So from my seat, I'm able to reach over and grab this over my fish finder, and it's totally out of the way and it clears everything. So since I didn't use this front camera mount that much on the kayak, I ended up using it for my fishing net, and I ended up just using my pole holder. I just moved over to the other side. I think the only other thing I've changed since then from my last video, I think I had the double header, and I got all the links and the other stuff, is adding this the Guardian Angel from Guardian Angel Devices, which is my navigational light. And you can see I have my red and green. And what's good about this is that it lasts for about an hour on high, which is pretty much covers me in my morning when I go out. If I need to have it on longer, I just go to medium. But at high, it does 3 nautical miles. Probably at medium, it probably does 2. And on low, it does 1. Even at 1 nautical miles, it's actually pretty good for a kayak to be seen that far. But, you know, your 3 nautical miles here at high lasts you about an hour. And it's a mag mount. So I can take it on and off and move to other things. But I'm going to have a separate video on why I chose to do this instead of hardwiring lights. I am an electrician. I could hardwire lights on this thing in 2 seconds, you know, but there's a reason why I end up going this route. And that's on a separate video just covering this little device. But, you know, if you want a quick, easy navigational setup, all I actually did was just super glue this to the front here, the mag mount. And you could actually you know, get multiple mag mounts and move this to other kayaks. That's another reason why I did it. And you can wear this on your body, but really the main reason why I got this over, I might as well tell you now, the main reason why I got this over the actually hardwiring lights is because if I have a problem, I can just do that. And I know it might not show up that bright in the camera right now during the day, but this thing at nighttime, or at dusk is extremely bright, and it's going to grab the attention. You know, people will be able to find me a lot easier because they're going to see flashing lights, and there's white in here and stuff. It's actually pretty cool. But yeah, you got that. You got the net, and this is my motor setup. I do have a whole bunch of videos on installing this, but I ended up going with the Bixby motor on this because I have the pedal drive. And this is a quick, easy setup, and you can see how I did it real quick. I got my cord coming back, and it comes up to here to a cleat, and I just pull it up. It just picks up, pulls out of the clip, which I'll show you real quick here. Now it's out of the clip. You can see it. How easy I raise that when I come in for a launch. This is my setup, whether it's day-to-day fishing or it's out, you know, tournament fishing. This is my setup. You know, I got my Yak Attack flag up there. That's my camera mount up top, which gets hardwired into my port, which I have into the Blackpack Pro here, which my Aqua battery is on the inside, and that's what charges my camera. And I also have a second port for charging my phone. Once again, I apologize about the wind. I just wanted to get the shot today, and I wanted to have it outside. And then you have my catch board mount, which is from Yak Gadget. But I have a whole video on this whole thing. But I just kind of wanted to just, you know, for this video, show you how this thing's set up, minus my rods and my tackle, of how my kayak is set up. But let's get on to the review about this Hobie PA 14, any problems I've had or anything or whatnot. So as far as the review of the Hobie PA 14, you know, in my opinion, I've been on a few other kayaks. I actually owned an Old Town. I did not feel as comfortable on it. I mean, maybe it was just the model I had of Old Town. It was more of a paddle kayak. So it was just like a filler kayak just to throw in. I didn't feel as comfortable on it. Once you got on it, it was fine, but trying to stand up on that and stuff, I didn't feel as secure. But you know, the reason why I was able to go, this is my actual first kayak that I actually purchased, was the Hobie PA 14, and the reason why I was able to afford it and stuff is because I sold my boat. But my suggestion to anybody that's looking to buy a kayak for fishing and wants to do it, you know, if you're going to spend a lot of time on the kayak fishing and this is your primary vessel, don't build your way up. Don't start with the cheap Walmarts. Don't do any of that stuff. If you can go out and get your Hobie or your Old Town, you know, or any of the Bonafides with your motors and all that Motor Guide stuff on it and all your other motors, do it. Don't waste money on those $700-800 kayaks. You'll regret it because you're going to want to upgrade probably in a couple months, if not sooner. So as far as the Hobie PA, I feel very secure and comfortable on it. It's a very wide kayak. It's very stable. So as far as my overall long-term use of the Hobie PA 14 review is, I've had no problems with it. You know, I've heard stories online of people saying this breaks, that breaks. You know, you have a rudder system. You have, you know, just like skinny paracord that runs inside here for your rudder, for your skeg, etc. They're just string, I mean, basically. So they're going to break. They're going to dry rot. You know, it's going to happen. You know, when it happens, you just get it replaced. You repair it yourself, etc. As of now, I have had no strings break. Now that I probably said it on video, it's probably going to break next time I go out. But I've had no strings break. And the only thing I suggest doing is on your back hatch, where you have your rudder control, is pop that open every now and then, and just make sure your screws are tight. Maybe tighten up the paracord a little bit. Throw a little bit of lube in there. You know, it's plastic on plastic. There's a little bit of you know, like a plastic washer underneath there, and there's a metal washer. You know, I spray a little bit of WD-40 in there every now and then just to keep it loose. You know, so I don't have access to my hatch because it's underneath this plate for my motor. I still have access. I just got to take these two screws off and these bolts off. But you know, underneath here, you know, this is where your little black plastic hatch is from Hobie. Just pop those 4 screws out. I would just kind of go in there, make sure your strings are good. You know, put a little bit of WD-40 or like a more of a grease type of, you know, not a grease because they'll get jammed up over time, but like just like a lubricant based, you know, maybe more of a petroleum based lubricant. Just kind of keep that little rudder system going back and forth. Just keeps it operating smooth. You know, over time, like I said, those strings are going to break. Besides that, my seat's held up great. I've had no problems with that. I do have the kayak cushion on it. You know, I haven't been cleaning this as much lately. I get a little bit of water inside of the hole, and I'm talking minuscule when I'm out in the water. And that might just be water coming in around, you know, around my hatch here or whatever too as well. Or there may be like a small little, you know, screw on the bottom or something that's letting a little bit of water in. But I get very little water in this. I mean, it's just enough to, you know, wipe up a little bit with a paper towel. Because I usually, like, when I come back, I open my hatch up and I, you know, air out the inside of this so it doesn't smell too bad. Besides just me beating this up, this one I got last November, so this one's just a little over a year old. You know, I beat it up. I got a lot of scratches on it. I got some big gouges underneath the bottom of this. I'm kind of gentle with it, but at the same time, I don't worry about it as much because they are really strong. I mean, for the price you pay for this, if it can't take some scratches and beating, then they shouldn't be selling it, in my opinion. You know, right now I'm throwing this on my roof, which doesn't help because I think I'm scratching a little bit more when I throw it on my roof rack of my truck. I am changing to a trailer again in the future. I'm getting one built from on the water. The reason why I'm going back to a trailer, that's going to be in a separate video, but you know, I am going back to a trailer. I will probably still keep the roof rack, possibly. We'll see what's going to happen with that, but you know, with the trailer coming up, I'll be able to carry a couple kayaks, you know, when my son's getting ready, and it's getting a little bit easier for me than instead of picking up on my roof, even with the Will-I loader. The Will-I loader is pretty easy to get your kayak up there, but it's even easier to throw down a trailer. But I'm not bashing the Will-I loader. I love it. I have it, but I know I'm getting off subject. Let's get back to the kayak. But overall, though, I mean, having 2 of these in 5 years, I never replace the strings. I do a little bit of maintenance in the back and just make sure the strings, I just check. I don't really do much maintenance. The seats have held up great with me. You know, people have had a problem with the seat. You know, the seat base is cracking down here. That may just be, you know, a bad mold. It may be the person using the seat just slamming their big body down on top of it. I mean, I'm 250 and I'm not gentle on it, and still it's holding up here. You know, the fins, I think, is the piece of equipment that you have to just keep an eye on and keep those changed and the nuts tightened on that. That's my only suggestion with the Hobie PA is your fins, your drive. Your drive takes a lot of force from your legs, and I suggest every time you come home, or at least every other couple trips off the water, I normally just kind of give it a visual check. I make sure that, you know, the lines on the fins and everything are seem to where they're supposed to be. They're pretty tight, and I just tighten up those nuts because you will get a little bit of stretches. There's a little bit of nuts on the fins, which I'll show you guys in a minute. It's the only thing that I just make sure I double check all the time on this as well. The foam pads, I mean, this one's only a year old, so I mean, it's a year old, but you got to figure in a year, it's got over probably 100 trips on it in a year's period, if not more. There may even be more on it than just 50, you know, 100 trips. So, you know, it's got a lot of seat time. I mean, you do see a little bit of rust on the screws, even though they're stainless, but you know, I still take this in salt water. I don't spray this off. I barely clean the kayak like I used to, but I think once I get it back on a trailer, I'm going to clean it more. I do want to do a cleaning soon and do some of the 302 protectant on it, just to kind of, even though it's garage kept, just to kind of clean it up a bit and put some protectant on it, because I still want this kayak to hopefully last me for another 5 years as far as the haul. If I can get another 5 years, or I guess 5 years total, I'll be happy with that. So I'm on year 1 now, so if I can get 4 more years, I'll be happy with that. But as of right now, I got no problems with this. This is my setup. I mean, you can see I don't have a lot, but I don't carry a little bit. So, I mean, I'm not adding a tremendous amount of weight to this kayak, but I do have some equipment. I mean, this motor itself is very light. So, overall, I'm happy with the Hobie PA 14. I think they're worth the money. I mean, yes, everything's inflated in the past couple of years. I mean, they've gone up probably almost $1,000, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or $700 in over a year or so because of, you know, inflation. They're worth the money. You know, the bona fides and everything do have their peaks, you know, and their perks. I mean, you know, as far as the bona fide, it's a stable kayak as well, and you can throw a nice Torpedo on it or a motor guide. But your only other secondary way to get back if you have a motor issue is a paddle. And we know with those motors and today's motors that we have in these kayak, we can go 15, 20 miles away from the banks. I mean, from where we launched. That's a long paddle back when you have hundreds of pounds of equipment on your kayak at the end of a day of a tournament. So I always want a pedal drive. Whether it's a Hobie or another brand, I want the pedal as my primary or as my secondary to get back home after a long day. I just don't want to paddle that far. So that's why I went with the Hobie over every other brand with as far as pedal drives. Now the pedals themselves, like the natives and stuff, they're big wide kayaks. I mean they are stable too as well, but it's a pedal drive, and that rotating motion, in my opinion, is really, it hurts my knees. I can't do it. So just the back and forth motion of the fins of the Hobie is a lot more comfortable. I don't think it beats up on your joints as much, and it's a lot easier to do than the pedal drive. Now the pedal drive, yes, the pedal drive, you are going to have instant reverse. You know, the fins on this, you got to pull back, the tab. Not a big deal. It's not that hard to do. Even fighting the fish, I do it all the time. It's just something you adapt to. Now the 360, I think you can just spin a knob and turn around. You don't have to worry about hitting obviously the reverse tab, but that's where I guess your advantage of the 360 would be. But overall, unless you have a bad pour or a bad mold or something that went through quality control, they're pretty well built kayak. The fit and finish on these are pretty good. I mean, I've seen other kayaks in person, and you look at some of the molds and everything, and you're like, really, that's what you guys are going to put out? I'm not bashing other people. That's not what this video is going to be about. Will I ever change brands? Possibility. If I can get my butt in another kayak and I really like it, I'm going to change. I'm not brand loyal when it comes to anything, to be honest with you. I'm not sponsored by anybody, like a specific brand of anything. I have affiliates and I got some, local sponsors, but I'm not locked to any one product. Everything that I buy, everything that I review, everything that I use, I buy because I want to, and not because somebody's telling me I need to buy it. I could change brands at any time and with snapping my fingers in a heartbeat, but I've been on the Hobies since I've started kayak fishing. It's kind of hard to get off this platform, because I'm so used to, after using it for 5 years, to change brands just because to change brands, so until I actually have my butt in the seat and trying another kayak out, this is what I'm gonna be rolling with. If I never get my butt in another seat and try anything in the next 4 years, and it's time for me to get a new kayak, or I put a hole in this, or I have a really bad break or crack in it, I'm just gonna buy another Hobie, and it'll probably still just be the Hobie PA 14, not the 360. There's no reason to have extra parts, extra moving things if you don't need it. That's my only thing that I would consider ever getting rid of a paddle or a fin or a pedal drive, is like with a Bonafide or any of the other kayaks that don't have a drive system in them, and you just got a motor. Yeah, it's a pretty simple kayak. I mean, you got a motor on it, and then the rest of it's just a kayak with a paddle. So you have even less moving parts or less things to break. Our biggest thing on the Hobie, you break your drive. I mean, just the lower unit, you got to pay $400 just for the lower unit. And then if you want to buy a whole nother unit, it's $800 just for the drive. But it's been engineered and looked at quite a bit. I mean, like I said, I'm a big boy, and I was even bigger when I got my first one, and I had a lot of force on this drive, and I still haven't had a problem with it. But let's take a look at the drive real quick. I'll just tell you what the things I look at as far as the maintenance on it, and we'll kind of wrap this video up. I just wanted to show you just a quick little thing in my review, and just kind of show you what my kayak looks like after a year. So these are the chains, and these are the little, coated pulley cables, and you can see there's a little nut here, and you got your chain. I just make sure that these are tight, and make sure there's no lot of movement, or it's not, I don't make them super tight, but they're tight. There's really not much movement in them. And I just kind of hit the, the chain itself, with some lube. A lot of times it's just WD-40, and I kind of spray it throughout. But you can see what the drive looks like after a year's use. I mean, the pads are still there. This has a little bit of different setup than my 2017, how the pad, the fins adjust. But you still have these pulleys. A lot of people break these. They do make ones that are like, because these are like plastic inserts here. They do make ones from, I forgot, it may even be Burley Pro or whatever, that have like the metal inserts into this. But you're still only screwing in the plastic anyway. You just don't rip on these. Just gently pull it back. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have these strings. These things are gonna break over time. So when people bash something, if you've had it for a few years and these strings break, oh my God, they're supposed to break at one point. I mean, they're not made out of titanium, cables that are going to last forever. But overall, I just kind of keep some spray. I spray this with WD-40 or any other kind of lube I have floating around. I don't use any particular brand, and I just make sure the stuff's tightened up. But you can see, like I said, these over a little years use. You got well over 100 trips on these. The pads are still on the feet. I bashed this into rocks and stuff. I mean, they're a little They're not horribly twisted or anything. They got some, like, you know, they probably have some chunks taken out, like very little chunks. I mean, but that's the reason for the kick-up fins, that is to prevent any major, you know, major hiccups on these. But once again, if you do kick them, you know, do bend the rods, you can just change the rods on these. You can change just the fin on these. You know, you got just a lower unit that you can change on this if needed. But, you know, just besides just a normal tightening up and spraying this with lube, you can see how dirty and filthy it is. I've had no problems with this drive. It's just simple little maintenance. Just, you know, these things are in water all the time, whether it's salt or fresh. Just make sure things stay tight and lubed up. I mean, you got moving parts, you got bearings, you got stuff everywhere. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts on this little setup here. That's really it, guys. I mean, besides that, I still, you know, like I said, this unit's only a year old. My previous unit was 4 years old. And then the previous unit didn't have as many trips on it as I do on this one, as much as I do. Oh, I'm sorry. And one thing I am missing on my setup here, I don't have my wheels put in there. The Boondocks landing gear, that's the only thing I'm missing off this kayak that wasn't on in the video earlier. But yeah, I mean, you can see this is the amount of stuff I have on this kayak, and I use it multiple times a week. And it's been holding up great after a year. Like I said, my previous one at 4 years, had no problems with it, but didn't have as much use as this one did on it. So this one in 1 year probably had the same amount of use I did on my other one in probably about 2 years. So besides my own cuts and, you know, cuts and everything on the bottom of this and gashes, I mean, it's got a lot of scratches on the bottom from launching and dragging it. I've had no problems with this kayak whatsoever. You will not regret a Hobie PA 14. So if you can afford, you know, not even saying just this kayak, but if you can afford a good kayak right from the beginning, just go for it right out the door, right out the gate. So this way you're not wasting money and just keep wasting money and keep wasting money. Just go for it all in. Like I said, unfortunately, you know, in today's market, these things have gone up about almost $900 since probably this one almost. So, or maybe $500 on this one. I think there's like $4,700, $4,900 now. I forget what they are, but they're worth the money if this is what you're going to do as a full-time hobby, passion, or profession. You know, now you get picked up by somebody like Bonafide or something like that, I would go with a Hobie. I'm sorry, I'm not a Hobie loyalist, brand loyalist, but the drive on these compared to a pedal drive, I guess unless you're younger, you know, the older gentlemen, there's no comparison. You know, so it's everybody's personal opinion, but Hobie is worth the money. I wish they could make it cheaper for everybody to afford it. I mean, they have cheaper lines of these. You got the Hobie Passports now, I think, or the Passport R or whatever. It's still a decent entry-level kayak, and you could go out and win tournaments with it. You could go out and beat me in the tournament with this because you're just getting out there. You know, winning tournaments doesn't make a difference what kayak you're in. You can do that in any kayak. But if you want, let me go back. I'm like a squirrel. The Hobie Passport R, I think, is about $1,800 for the 12-footer. To me, that's a great kayak for that price. I saw it at ICAST, you know, this past year. I'm thinking about actually getting one of those for my wife for the amount of time she'll use it. But having that pedal drive, and it actually had the kick-up fins. And I don't think it had the 180s, but it had the kick-up fins on that for that price point. That's good. I mean, if you can't go in with this, I would suggest getting that as maybe your beginner for now. But at the same time, it's not just a beginner. I did have some built-in rod holders, but check that out too, the Passport. I'll leave a link in the description below for that. But they're worth the money. I would not tell you otherwise if I didn't think it was worth the $40-some hundred for this. I'm pretty sure it's like $4,900 now for this model. I wouldn't tell you that. I'm not here to BS anybody. I'm here to give you my honest review. You know, if I'm going out and somebody asks me, do you love your kayak? Yes. I don't love it. I like it. I don't think there's anything I love besides my wife and child. There's a flaw in everything. What flaws do I have in this? Do I see? I don't know. I can't find it yet. But, you know, I would tell you to get a Hobie PA 14 without second guessing it or without hesitation. So I just want to kind of, guys, give you, you know, people who's on the fence about this long term. And, you know, I always see like 1 year reviews, 6-month reviews. Long term, my first one was 4 years. Nothing broke. This one's a year, a little over a year old. And it's gotten twice the amount of use as the other one in the same time period, and nothing's broke. Something is going to break on this. It may be this year. Doesn't make it a bad kayak. There's moving parts, it's strings. It doesn't take much to break anything. So for people who bash saying that Hobie's not worth the money, they break, maybe they're doing something wrong. So, you know, we all could have, you know, you all have a bad truck. The truck before this, I had a bad truck. Am I going to bash Ford? No. Am I going to bash Chevy? No. The quality today is not what it used to be, in my opinion, 30 years ago. You know, they just like to push stuff out today. Every brand, whether it's a kayak truck, people like to push stuff out to make the money. Could you have a little bit better quality control or a different fit and finish on this? Maybe a little bit better. I mean, I don't see anything horribly wrong with it compared to other kayaks, but everything could always be better. We know that. So anyway, I've talked enough. I probably bothered you guys enough already, bugged your ear, you know, wore your ear out on this video of me just talking aimlessly, running my mouth. But as always, guys, I really appreciate the support from all of you. I'll ask you guys, I try to do it every now and then, you know, hit that thumbs up, comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. You know, if you haven't been to this channel before, if you don't know, I'm always looking to build my channel so I can give back to my subscribers. So, as always, guys, I'll catch you guys in the water. Thanks for watching. See you guys soon.